action.
Hey everybody, it's Bailey here. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and today that somewhere is not Madeira, but that somewhere is a little island a little south of there called Gran Canaria. It's part of the Canary Islands. Above that is Madeira. Above that are the Azores. It's really easy and cheap to get to all of those islands from the East Coast, so consider that for your next holiday. My cocktail of the day, a very low alcohol Aperol Spritz. We're staying at a little motel we've stayed at a few times, and the bartender just made this. I never put seltzer in mine, but it's really tasty and even less alcohol for those of us who sometimes like a light and refreshing cocktail. So this week we're going to talk a lot about things you can plant in early summer, late spring, around that time of your last spring frost when your soil is getting warm. Before that, I'm just going to talk about a few things that have been going on in Farmer Bailey land. 2 weeks ago when we talked about mums with Dr. Allison, I mentioned I was going off to Essen, Germany the next day to the world's largest horticultural trade show, and I was able to do that. It was a little smaller than it has been in the past, but still it's huge. I mean, you could spend days and days walking the show. My favorite part was always the hellebores. Heuger, the breeder of these ice and roses hellebores that we were able to offer this year for the first time. Just had a really nice chat with them, talking about all the new introductions. We'll be seeing more of those every year now. We have twice as many coming for for spring 2024. There's a really long production time on that crop, part of why it's so expensive, but they're so productive. You get so many stems. I'm really very excited. I've got a couple questions from you all this week about really showing me pictures of plants that don't look great. And I think most of it we figured out it comes down to just inconsistent, unstable weather patterns that are happening in the US. We keep an eye on what's going on over there. I hope you all came through that really cold, the super cold snap, not without too much damage. But yeah, when a plant is 70 degrees one day and 10 degrees the next, it doesn't know what to do. That's just not how these plants have evolved. And as climate changes, weather patterns get less stable, you're going to see more and more of that. And so when you're emailing us with a problem like that, we're always happy to help you. Give me some history, like what's been going on in the last few weeks. Someone sent me a photo of the poppy buds, about to flower, but then they were dead. It's like, well, I think they probably just froze. The plants were healthy. The plant can take the cold, but the buds can't. On that note, your homework assignment is to figure out where your state plant pathologist is. It's going to be at your state land-grant university, most likely. If you have a disease problem, just send a sample. Be ready. So go on and figure out who that is. They might have a label or a form that you'll have to fill out. Go on and get that on hand. So when you see something that comes up, just put it in a baggie and overnight it to these people, or it can probably survive a day or two in the mail. But then you're going to have an answer to that question of what's actually the problem. You can't treat something effectively if you don't know what the problem is. Like I said, usually free or very inexpensive. Make friends with that person, email them, even email them now and just say, hey, can you walk me through this process so I'm ready? Facebook is not the place to find answers for plant disease problems. Your state pathologist can help you. They are scientists. They have equipment to run tests and diagnose exactly what's going on. So it took me years till I actually did that myself, and I felt silly for not doing it sooner. Let's see, added a few new things to the store today. So sometimes of year we're able to sell little baby perennials in a 128 tray. Some crops we offer all year, others we just offer in the spring and summer. So Lady's Mantle is one that we only offer really summer and fall. It just takes a really long time. It takes longer than Lysianthus. I just put that on the store in a 128. Acalia or Yarrow, just put two, only available mixes right now. We'll have the fancy, vegetatively produced, uniform crosses later. But these are the seed grown ones, which are really great and really affordable. A whole bunch of Echinacea, I think, 12 different colors and mixes. And also some Asclepias or butterfly weed. Great for cuts, great for monarch butterflies, great for pollinators. Oh, and then one thing I'm really excited about is the new Roseanne Lysianthus that we saw in Holland back in November. That's the Roseanne terracotta. The color, well, like with all Lisianthus, it changes depending on your conditions. So to my eye, it's a bit darker than what we used to call light brown, or Roseanne 1 brown, that's the lightest. Roseanne terracotta is a group 2, so it's going to bloom a little later than that number 1, but it's a little rustier than deep brown, or Roseanne brown 3. I think there's a photo. I can't see what's... Okay. So here's some photos of it. One is comparing the brown with the terracotta. Like I said, those photos are of winter-produced greenhouse Lisianthus, which is probably going to be a little bit different color than you are seeing in summertime production in your high tunnel or outside. Anyway, we're really excited to see this new variety back in November, and now we have it. On the topic of Lisianthus, yes, we filled up Grow and Sell's facility pretty fast this year. It usually happens around this time of year in February. This year it happened around Christmas. That's just because there's so many people placing so many orders. Now, there's some rumors going around social media that we are full for the rest of the year, and that's simply not true. It's a lot of why I don't care for social media. If you have questions about such things, always ask us rather than posting on Facebook because, well, we know better than the rest of the people do. Now, if you're in the northern part of the country, the real thing with Lisianthus is the soil needs to be a little on the cool side when you plant it. So 55 or cooler would be ideal. So the northern tier growers, most of New England, you can still order. I think week 22 is the first week we can ship Lisianthus to you, at least that has been custom grown for you. So that will still work for northern growers because their soil will still be cool. It'd be great if you're putting that in a high tunnel so you can, give it some protection once frost time comes around, but you might get away with it even in the field. Speaking of Lisianthus, we're getting into the time of year where, well, it's the busy shipping season at Grow and Sell. We're in week 6 right now. So week 8, sort of when things start to ramp up, 10, 11, 12 are really busy weeks, and that keeps going into week 18. That's kind of the busiest time at Grow and Sell. Now, during that time, we also have what we call our available now offerings. That's, Grow and Sell produces a certain amount of extra product just in case they have a problem in their production. These are plants. Any of us who have been growing plants for more than a year or two understand that there's going to be problems sometimes. But also, I asked them to grow some extra material just as backup so that those people who have placed their pre-orders are guaranteed to get something. Sometimes we have to take a slightly different color than we had hoped for, but something is better than nothing. And then the rest of that we sell as available now products. So on Fridays, you'll notice a little tab will pop up, or a product in the store that says available now. It's usually split up between different tray sizes. So we have our full trays, the 128s, the 216s, and then the half trays. So those are the 50 strips. It's pretty obvious how, what crop is in what type of tray. We don't tell you when those are going to be posted because we don't know when those are posted. We get a list from Grow and Sell on Friday morning. It takes us a couple hours to get it formatted to fit, into our store. And then they're available for you to buy. We used to announce a certain time when it would be posted, or we'd send out an email, or we would post on Facebook. And that created this frenzy of just too many people shopping at the same time, people getting upset when they didn't get what they wanted. And I understand that. So we post generally sometime afternoon Eastern time. Now there are times where I don't get that list until even later. It may not go up until Friday afternoon, might not go up until Saturday morning every now and then. So if you're concerned or confused, just send me an email like, hey, should I just sit by my computer or should I check back later? And we'll give you a ballpark, but like I said, we just don't know. info@Farmer Bailey is the best way to reach us. There's 4 of us always in that email box, so we can help you out. There's one little thing that happens sometimes with the available now, and that's where you've got your box full and you go to checkout and then one of those trays disappears. Well, that just means that someone else got it before you did. And we've tried to figure out some way, like when you put a tray in your cart, to hold it there for a few minutes, and it's simply not something that Shopify can do. It's just too sophisticated. That's more like a hotel reservation or a plane reservation or a Ticketmaster kind of level of technology. And Shopify just doesn't offer that. I wish they did. We've asked, we'll keep asking. Maybe they'll add that functionality at some point. From Shopify's standpoint, they help people sell things. They want you, if it's sold, it's sold. They don't care who it goes to. Well, I do care who it goes to. And I would, I want everyone to have a nice experience, but sometimes you're going to check out and that tray is going to be missing. So what do? Well, the best thing to do would be just go ahead with your transaction, order those 2 trays or, however many you have, and then go back and see if there's something else that you would like for that extra spot. So you end up placing 2 transactions, and then you email us with those 2 order numbers. We can merge those together. We'll refund one of the shipping charges. Don't worry about that. That's easy for us. And don't bother emailing us to make sure it's okay. It is okay. We're standing by on Fridays. We know that it's, especially in these busy months or busy weeks of the year, we know that the available now is kind of a happening place to be. So that said, there's many hundreds of extra trays of Lisianthus coming up. We've purposely grown them to help you if you didn't get your order in time, or if something goes wrong with something else in your order. It gives us some wiggle room. So don't fret if you didn't get your order in time. You probably still have a good chance of getting some Lisianthus this year. Speaking of important dates, in general, ordering for our fall shipping period, we start taking those orders on July 1st. This year it's going to be July 3rd because that's on Monday. We don't want to make the lovely people at Grow and Sell come in on the weekend to take orders. So just keep in mind July 3rd this year is when we'll start our fall ordering process. And then spring 2024, that ordering will start on October 2nd. It would usually be October 1st. October 2nd is on Monday. So just keep those 2 dates in mind. As we saw this year, we did, we ran out of space sooner than we thought we would have. So it's really great if you can get that order in October or November. Try to keep in mind, before Thanksgiving, especially for things like Lisianthus, that just take a long time. They just take a lot of bench space, and they have to be sitting on that bench for 12 weeks. You can't stack them. They just don't fit. So it's a simple matter of running out of space. Okay, that's all of the little housekeeping stuff. So we have a new tab on the store. Maybe I can show it to you. Just on the very bottom of our product collection, there's this little thing here that says Summer Stars. And these are, that's just a cute name for things that don't mind being planted into warm soil. So, it might be too late for you to order custom Lisianthus for the cool season, but you have the whole warm season ahead of you. Things that should be planted into warm soil that's going to be 55 degrees or more. Hold on one second. So just got a note here from Felicia. The large-sized vernalized perennials that we offered for spring 2023, we started offering those October 1st of this year, and they sold out very quickly. There's still a few left, but the bulk of them went fast. We'll be producing a lot more for 2024. That ordering will open on October 2nd. We're also hoping to do some larger size perennials for fall shipping too. There's still some logistics, making sure we can get the right cuttings and the right seed. So stay tuned. We may be able to offer larger perennials twice a year. Great, thanks for that little reminder, Felicia. Okay, so things that don't mind going into warm soil. It's really a lot of them. There's about 45 different crops in the under that tab. I'm just going to go down the catalog and talk about some of them. If you have questions, please ask. That's what we're here for. This is just meant to be a casual question answer thing. So the first one I'm seeing, the very top of the list, is Achillea yarrow. It's one of the, I think it's kind of a unsung hero. It lives and lives and lives. Takes a beating, you cut on it, it blooms again. Comes in a nice range of colors. I really like yarrow. Fine to be planted anytime in summer. Does not mind the warmth. It'll establish nicely. You might get flowers the first year, or you might need to wait until the next year, but once you have it, you have it. Next one, ageratum. A lot of these things are, Achillea is a perennial. Something like ageratum is an annual, but it's from the tropics, so it's from a warm climate. It doesn't want to think about being below 55. So you need to plant that late. That is still available. It's fast to grow. I think we only need 5 or 6 weeks notice to grow that for you. Alchemilla, the next one, Lady's Mantle. One of my favorite things to mix with peonies because they tend to be in flower at the same time as peonies when there's not a lot of other stuff in flower. As I mentioned earlier, those take us, 13 weeks to produce. So good to order that now so you can get that in early summer, get it established. You'll be cutting on that in 2024. All right, Amaranthus. There's 2 types. The Chrysanthemum is the more upright type. The Ptilotus hangs down. Really super easy. Only thing with Amaranthus is remember, don't feed it much. Be kind of mean to it. It doesn't want much nutrition, or it's just going to get huge. Similarly, to sort of challenge it a bit, plant them close. We generally will ship you a plug with maybe 3 or 4 seedlings in it. Keep those together. That competition between them is going to produce a more usable stem. If by some chance you have a single Amaranthus, wait until it's about 5 or 6 inches tall, and then pinch the tip out, and that'll help it branch. So you get a number of smaller stems rather than one monster stem. I mean, they can get like 10 feet tall with a trunk like this. They're entirely unusable, even though they're very cool. I mentioned Asclepias, butterfly weed. Not going to be your top seller ever, but it's a fun perennial to have around. Really long lasting once it gets established. All right, Caryopteris is another great one. We talked about that 2 weeks ago as a good companion with mums because they want a really warm summer, just like mums do. They're going to flower in those shorter days of fall. And then you have that lovely blue or pink or a kind of blush color that you can mix in with your mum bouquets. Brassicas or flowering cabbage would be another great thing to plan for fall. Likes it hot, so order it for summertime. We still have plenty of time to get that to you. Okay, Celosia. I'm not gonna lie, Celosia is a hard one to ship. It sometimes has a little trouble, especially being shipped in a really hot time of year. But we always fulfill a claim. If you tell us it looks bad, send us photos. There's a whole section on the website about how to file a claim. For those people who pick up around Grow and Sell, no problem. Or if you live close by, so it's only in transit for a day or 2, I wouldn't worry about ordering Celosia. But sometimes if it's going all the way to California, just be ready. I mean, I'm not telling you to not order it. I'm just saying it's a little bit fussy in a dark box in summertime. We talked about chrysanthemums a lot last week. They're still available for ordering for 2 more weeks, or another week and a half. So week 8 is the cutoff, so don't miss that chance because it only comes once a year. Cosmos, classic heat lover. They tend to establish during the long days, and then as the days start to get shorter, you'll get flowers. Really great for filling out a bouquet. Dahlias are, a real summer, the star of summer, star of late summer, but they want a nice warm summer to get established. In the south they say it's too hot, in the north they say it's not warm enough. They're fairly adaptable. They'll bloom in their own time, but there are definitely these dahlia cuttings want to be planted when the soil is warm. Let's see, just got a couple of questions here. Let me jump around a little bit. Any news on Eucalyptus from Southern Bella Blooms? We updated our Eucalyptus supply a few weeks ago. I think Silver Dollar is the best one that's left. I'm not saying the others are bad. They're just not as tried and true. We don't know as much about them. There's been a big eucalyptus seed shortage worldwide because of the brush fires in Australia. The seed producers either got wiped out or they're not producing anymore. There again, it's one that wants to be planted into warm soil, and we do still have time to grow that for you. We'll be offering more yarrow. Currently, we just have the 2 mixes on the site. For fall shipping and for spring of next year, we'll have the terracotta, the apple blossom, the vegetatively produced kind of fancier yarrows. So yes, we will. Is there a minimum order for available now plants? Again, ideally you're going to fill up a whole box because that's going to be the most cost-effective way per tray for you. The box holds 3 trays. Try to fill up a box. We'll ship it with 1 or 2. Also, when you have 3 trays, they just ship better. If you have 1 or 2, they bounce around more. The plugs pop out of the trays. They're usually fine, but it's best to try to fill a box. Like I said, if you need to go back and order an extra tray, just do that from Available Now. We'll put them together, but let us know. Let us know to merge those orders. I'm new. How do I start the ordering process? Good question. There's a tab on the website that says, "Are you new here?" Read this first. It'll give you so much information to look over. If you have any questions after you've read that, by all means, shoot us an email at info@farmerbailey, and we're happy to help you. All right, delphinium is a great thing to plant in summer if you live in the north. If you live in a place where delphinium fizzles out, you're best planting that in the fall, enjoying the flowers the following spring, and treat it more as a kind of a hardy annual. You know, up in Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, you can plant delphinium all summer long. It'll probably bloom the first year, and then you'll have even more flowers the next year. Talked a little bit about echinacea. So the seed-grown strains are in the store now, sold in our 128 tray. They're really quite affordable. Prices actually come down since last year, which is always nice to see. We will have the big fancy double crazy ones that come out of tissue culture. We'll start selling those October 2nd for 2024. They're another one that's kind of a long lead time. But yeah, some of the new shapes and colors are very exciting. Eryngium, I don't think we have much seed right now. You can certainly plant it in the summer. As soon as we get more seed, we'll restock that. Like we talked about Eucalyptus already. Be a great one to be planting out in early summer, late spring, after your last frost. Let's see here. All right, let me just pop over here for another question. Do I need to harden off the plugs when I first receive them? We have a blog post on the website about hardening off your plugs. In short, if you're planting them in a high tunnel, you don't need to worry about hardening them off. When you're hardening something off, you're really keeping it, it's coming out of a warm, humid greenhouse environment. So you're really protecting it from the sun's harsh rays. Even under greenhouse plastic, you're getting a little protection. The rays can't penetrate all the way through, and that plant is more protected. If you take that away, the plant isn't quite ready for it. So that's why we ease things in and out for a couple days, just to get the plants, harden those leaves a little bit. They start to make a little bit of their own kind of sunblock to protect them from the wind and the sunshine. So check out that blog post. It's under the info tab, I believe, on the website. Let's see, another question here about Lisianthus. I'm in zone 7A. The current date for Lizzie's is too late for me, correct? So I'm going to go off on a tangent. Your zone only tells me how cold your winter is. That doesn't tell me anything about your last frost date or how quickly you warm up in the springtime. Again, zones just are the average lowest temperature your area experiences. Okay, so we put a lot more emphasis on zones than I think we should. You want your Lisianthus to go in cool soil, so 50 would be great. Ideally below 55 for a couple weeks. So only you're going to know that information, and get a soil thermometer and keep track of your soil temperatures throughout spring. You can always try it. It may not always work. I've known growers in Georgia to plant as late as week 22. I think that's or 21. That's really on the edge, in my opinion, but they succeeded. So most of us can probably plant into the early 20s, but it's not certain. All right. Gumfrina, back to the list. Another superheat lover. Don't plant it until your soil is definitely getting warm. Under herbs, you might have missed these because they haven't been there all season. We have a whole bunch of herbs now at your request. Most are really good for cutting. Not all of them are, so do some Googling first. Basil, kind of a classic heat lover. Something fun to mix with zinnias because zinnias don't want to go in the cooler. Basil doesn't really want to go in the cooler either just because it loves heat so much. Lavender, we're offering 50 plant strips of lavender. That's what we call our half tray. And they're really quite affordable. They start at like $25, about 50 cents per plant. So if you have dreams of having a big lavender farm, it would be a really great way to start. We have really good availability on those cuttings as well. So don't worry about, we should be able to fulfill your order. Lemon verbena, really nice fragrance. They can get really quite tall. Mint, I know some of you use in bouquets. I think the key there is wait until the little bit later in the season when the growth has gotten firm. Try to cut it too early; it can get a little wilty. Similarly, rosemary, can become a really big, tall shrub. Really nice to have that aromatic essence in your bouquets. I always like putting herbs in wedding bouquets because it just gives the bride one more sense. And then sage, also really can be really lovely. So don't miss our little herb tab. All right. Marigold's another super heat lover. They tend to flower later in the season. If you're lucky, you can keep them going into October. So the Day of the Dead celebrations in Mexican culture is they're huge consumers of marigolds. They make garlands out of them. You'll just see them everywhere. Similarly, if you live in an area with an Indian community, they're kind of the classic Indian wedding flower. So they may not be for everyone. They're really long lasting. They really fill up a bouquet. But also you can cut the heads and sell those into certain markets. So don't forget about marigolds. Hopping around again, someone says they're really loving the Italian petunias. Any chance you'll restock the white and pink varieties? We have never actually had them. So we were told they were coming down the pipeline. We've only ever really had the seed of the mixed purple strain. The breeders are trying to isolate them and make more separate colors. I actually spoke with a man from Italy at the trade show 2 weeks ago. And that's one of the products he's trying to work with the breeders to really isolate separate colors because, well, a lot of us just enjoy growing separate colors more than mixed colors. All right, panicum, the frosted explosion grass, loves it hot. I didn't know it's the producers say don't even bother planting it until your soil is super hot. So it's almost like a midsummer plant. Similarly, Ptilotus, Ptilotus, it's always a hard one to spell. It wants it really hot. It almost wants to be in the 70s before you plant it. So don't order that one too early. I know some friends who did plant it early. It still flowered well, but it was just really, it was maybe a foot tall rather than 3 feet tall. So schedule that one for a June, July delivery, and I think you'll have good luck with it. Just talk about petunias, Plectranthus, a nice, it's not an exact substitution for Eucalyptus, but very easy to grow, loves it hot. You get a lot of stems per plant. That's another one that is going to be a little wilty early in the season, but if you cut it later in the season, it will hold up. I recall having it last in the cooler for 2 or 3 weeks, pulling it out, using it, and it lasted a week beyond that. So, Rudbeckia, I would go with more of the triloba types. They can sometimes take a year or two to get really mature, but once they do, they stick around. You can cut on those for a long time. Really lovely, lovely native plant. Solidago, goldenrod, our native, a little bit of a roadside favorite of mine. Again, they don't mind the heat at all. Feel free to plant those well into summer. I may have missed some. A lot of this is going to depend on where you are. If you're in the north, there's things, you can plant snapdragons into early summer. You can plant scabiosa. You can plant status. But today we're just really focusing on things that want to go into warm soil. There's still plenty of time to order these things. So if you missed out on custom ordering your Lisianthus, a couple months ago, never fear, you're still going to have something in your field. Hopefully you can pick up some Lisianthus from our available now. But if not, there's just a ton of options. Okay, if you have questions, we'll let her rip. We're kind of ran through the store and pointed out the items that will be best for early summer for you. I'm seeing a couple questions come in here. Have you heard of any success with planting ranunculus into white or silver plastic mulch? I'm wondering if it would keep the soil cooler, similar to what's recommended for Lisianthus and some other crops. I've actually done quite a bit of, I don't sell the ranunculus, but I'm happy to talk about any flower because I just love flowers. There's 2 things going on with ranunculus. Yes, you will have better ranunculus if you can keep the soil cool as long as possible. The big thing that's shutting down your ranunculus in the spring isn't the heat, but it's the lengthening days. Ranunculus want to flower under short days. So for those of us who, have grown them, up in the northern tier, by the time we have warm enough temperatures for them to flower, our days are getting very long. So we only get a couple weeks of flower and then they get shut down. Now, if people are growing them, say Southern California, maybe in Georgia or somewhere where you can keep them on the cool side, but in those short days of winter, they actually keep producing flowers over and over and over again. So it's the day length that's shutting them down more than the heat. The heat will shut them down also. So keep them cool and keep them under short days if you can. But that's what I have to say about ranunculus. One of my favorite flowers. I wish we could sell it to you, but I love seeing what you all are growing. Someone's asking if we will sell Astrantia. If you haven't seen Astrantia, I'm not sure how you're supposed to say it. It is a really lovely flower. Sometimes I have seen it from some perennial vendors. We've had a really hard time getting our hands on, it's probably coming out of tissue culture. There's probably bare root stuff coming from Holland. I'm afraid I don't have a source. We're trying. It's one that I love growing and I would really be happy to sell. Oh, someone says the Yarrow mix says it's sold out. Did I not put it in stock? One moment. Can I order it? All right, I'll investigate what's going on. You might be looking at the larger, I'm guessing what you're doing is looking at the larger perennial size yarrow. We are out of the larger ones. The small plug ones are available. Let me just when I get off here, I'll make sure that those are fully stocked for your ordering pleasure. We have the summer berries and the summer pastels, two mixes, both very nice. The seed grown strains don't really have many straight colors. They're always kind of a mixture. Rosemary for zone 6B. Rosemary is a Mediterranean plant. It loves heat. So they're all going to be about equally hardy. And I believe I've only included tall upright rosemaries. But there again, I'm not a rosemary expert, so do some Googling on these varieties and make sure. I think barbecue is a really nice tall one. Goriza is another great one. All of the herbs I have included, and if you take time to read the descriptions of the herbs, I very clearly say that a lot of these are for smaller potted plants. I know a lot of you grow potted herbs for your farmers markets. Take some time to do a little Googling before you order the herbs if you're not sure of certain varieties. There are certainly tall ones listed in every category, but there are a few dwarfer ones that would be better for a pot than for cutting. Someone saw a large round leaf sage that they got from us and they haven't seen it on the site. I'd have to see the picture of what it is before I could guess. One second, let me just see if I can make a guess. Yeah, send us an email, info@farmerbailey. I can try to figure out what sage that might have been. It might have just been common, officinalis, just common sage, but good question. Maybe I'm not also a sage expert. All right. Looks like questions are kind of winding down. If you have any ideas for other topics of conversation, things you want to talk about, I'm sure we'll do a big Lisianthus, a deep dive into Lisianthus as the Lisianthus is starting to ship out. That'll be in a couple weeks. I think our biggest Lisianthus week is probably week 12, so maybe in about a month from now we'll really focus on what to do when your Lisianthus arrives, what to expect from the season. Thanks for checking in. Any questions? Info Farmer Bailey. We're there almost around the clock now, so we're happy to help you out. Happy spring. Bye.